Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist. I own 53 units of real estate. And I help coach people to buy their first multifamily deal. So today I want to talk about a down payment and how much I averaged putting down as I scaled to my 23 unit or 53 unit portfolio for context. So when I first got started, I started house hacking. And what's nice about house hacking is you can put less than 20% down. I averaged about 10% for my first 3 house hacks. And yes, when you put less than 20% down, you pay something called PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. But if you actually break down the cost of PMI, sometimes it's not as bad as you think, right? Like I've seen it where it's $120 a month, it's $80 a month, $180 a month. And keep in mind, my loans are bigger, right? So like before you write off PMI, just ask, how much does it cost? And sometimes it's not as bad as you think. Like it could be like, at most, let's say $200 a month. And but it's worth it to spend $200 a month if you put less down. And when your property appreciates in, like, let's say a year or 2 years or 3 years, you can get another appraisal and then remove that PMI. I've done that before, right? Where I put 10% down on a house hack, and I paid $130 of PMI, and then after 2 years of me paying down the loan and the value appreciated, they reappraised it at 20% equity, and then they removed that PMI. So now my cash flow increased by $130 a month. So it's a long-term game, right? But I'd rather have you put less money down so you can buy more properties in the beginning so that you can scale. Remember, in the beginning, you want scale, you want leverage, right? So how do you get 10% down? Well, you need a good debt to income ratio. You need a good credit score, ideally 760 plus. You need not much debt, so ideally no student debt, no car loans, no credit card debt for sure. And then obviously you need ideally a high income W-2, right? So you have to work your way there, right? You can job hop, you can move into management, you can improve your skill set. I didn't say it was easy. This is what I did, right? But for house hacks, you can put 10% down. You can put 5% down. Like my most recent house I just bought, my primary residence, I put 5% down. And our PMI is, I think, 180. It's not even that terrible. But you can put 3.5% down too, right? So the key is you want to leverage. So my first house hack, 10% down. You don't have to do 10. You can do 5. You can do 3.5, whatever you can afford. And then my second house hack, 10% down. Third house hack, 10% down. And I believe on 2 of them, I put 10% down. I didn't even have to pay PMI because they had a loan product. And my credit score was good. My debt to income ratio was good, right? And on one property, I did pay PMI. But after 2 years, after the value went up, I removed PMI, right? And so that's how I got started my first 3 house hacks. And what's nice about house hacking is, if you can buy a duplex, triplex, fourplex, that's the ultimate hack because you can live in 1 unit, right? And then you can rent out 3 other units. And what's nice too is some lenders will factor in the income from those 3 other units, even though it's a primary residence, to help your debt to income ratio, right? So that's what's beautiful about the fourplex is you live in 1 unit, you get privacy, you get your own unit, your own apartment, and then you get rental income from the other 3, which helps your debt to income ratio. And hopefully that rental income helps subsidize your cost of living, or you're living there for free. That's the most ideal, right? For me, I didn't have duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes in the Bay Area where I get started. So I started with a single family home. I lived in the master, rented out the 3 other bedrooms for $1,000 each. Yes. Did it suck to live with a tenant? Yes. Do you lose privacy? Yes. Is it hard? Yes. But you have to do what you gotta do, right? So that's the hand I was dealt, and I don't want that to hold me back. So I took advantage of it in my 20s to house hack, right? So first 3 properties, 10% down. I bought an out-of-state property. So with this 10%, so I held onto this. COVID happened, black swan event. Obviously, my single family homes skyrocketed in value, interest rates lowered. So what did I do? I did a huge cash out refinance. I pulled out a lot of money between my 3 single family homes. So I'm re-leveraging the equity that I've built by principal pay down, by natural market appreciation. And then now these properties have bigger loans, lower interest rates, and now they're cash flow negative, right? So how did I sustain cash flow negative? Is because I have a high income W-2. I have not much debt. I don't have credit card debt. I don't have a car loan. I don't have student loans, right? So I have a great debt to income ratio. My W-2 can support the negative cash flow of my rental properties despite it being rented out. I pulled out a lot of money. So this is called the velocity of money. And I used that same money to go buy an out-of-state rental in Huntsville, Alabama for 25% down. So that's my largest down payment. I used that to go buy my 26-unit apartment complex, including renovation. So I put down 25% down, which was $120K, but I negotiated $60,000 in seller repair credit. So I cut my down payment in half. So effectively, I put around 13% down. I self-funded the renovation of $300,000 using the equity from my properties. But there are loan products out there, they're called bridge loans, where they do something called loan to cost. So let's say I bought mine for $500,000, right? 25% down is about 125K. And, that's the down payment. I got 50%, $60,000 seller repair credit, right? So I cut my down payment in half. But I could have done a loan to cost. So if my purchase price was $500, my renovation was $300, I'm all in for $800. So 25% down of $800 will be $200,000, right? So, and that includes all my renovation cost. So I would have put $200,000 down, got $60,000 of seller repair credit. So I'm all in for $140K. So, but with renovations or bridge loans, remember, you have to front the money first, and then they reimburse you the money. So on this deal, either way, I self-fund the renovations, but you don't need to self-fund the renovations. I put 12% down. My mobile home park, I put 10% down seller financing, right? So seller financing, you can do less down. When I do seller financing, my most down payment I'll pay is 10%. Ideally, what I want to do is put 5% or 0% down. Or if I have to pay 10%, I'll break it up over maybe like 4 years. I'll give you 2.5% at close, 2.5% year one, 2.5% year two, and so on. Or I do 5% year one, 5% year two, right? So you spread. If you have to do a down payment, spread it out so you can get creative, right? And then for my 20-unit apartment complex, I did do a bridge loan on this, where I bought for $300, and I had about $100 in renovation costs. So that's $400 all in, and I put 25% down, which ended up being about $100,000, right? So in every situation, you can see, for the most part, I put less than 25% down, besides one property. So my house hacks, I put 10% down. My first 3 house hacks, 10% down. Huntsville, Alabama, out of state, that was the one I put 25% down on. My first apartment complex, remember, I put 25% down, but I got seller repair credit, which cut it down to 13%. And remember, the down payment was pulled from the equity from my 3 homes. So it's not even my money at this point, right? It's the equity from the other properties. I use that same money from those properties to buy my apartment, my 26 unit, my mobile home park, and my 20 unit, right? So that's not even my money. That's not even touching my W-2 income or my savings. It's just recycling the capital, the equity from other properties. This is the beauty of leverage, right? But yes, I have cash flow negative properties, right? Not so good, right? But eventually I plan on selling those, take the equity, and then pay off my primary and pay off some other rentals, right? So that's kind of the game. And then even my current primary residence, I bought this a year ago. This is when I was very cash poor. I spent all my money for my 2 apartments, my mobile home park. Sold my mobile home park, but I'm doing a seller carry second, so my money's trapped there. So I put 5% down. Me and Christine put 5% down, right? So we bought for $900. We put about $50K down, $25K me, $25K Christine. Could Christine put in more money to make us even? Yes, but I want it to be fair. So, I just split it. But, at this point, we can put extra money down we want to and then have no PMI. But PMI is only I think $180 a month. It's not even that much, right? So don't fear PMI. And this other property, my 53rd unit, which is under contract, that I'm calling the new construction BRRRR, right? So I paid cash, right? And cash could be a line of credit against your stock portfolio, a HELOC against your rental property. You could have done a cash out refinance to pull out money. You could have done a line of credit against your stocks. You could do a line of credit against your life insurance. You can get a personal line of credit. There's so many ways to do it, right? you can get a private money investor. We happen to have cash, right? So we bought a property cash and we negotiate a 20% discount. So if it sells for, let's just make it easy math. It's $300,000. We bought it. We got a $60,000 discount because we paid cash, or $60,000, which is 20% discount. So we bought for $240 cash. So what I'm going to do is immediately after I close on it, I'm going to engage debt service coverage ratio lenders that don't have seasoning. So seasoning means that you have to own the property for 3 months, 6 months. But there's some lenders that need zero seasoning, and what they want the seasoning period so that they can honor the appraised value, right? Because I'm buying it for 240, but let's just say it's actually worth 320, right? So it's worth 320 because I bought it right. And with new construction, if it sells for original price 300, typically appraised price can be a little bit higher than the purchase price because you're buying equity. So if it sells for 300, maybe it's worth 320, maybe it's worth 315, but because I put all cash, I got a 20% discount. So I'm buying it for 240. So I bought it for 240 all cash. It's worth 320. When I do my cash out refinance, I want them to look at that 320 value. That's why no seasoning is ideal. Yes, if there's no seasoning, my interest rate's gonna be higher, but it's okay. It's the velocity of money. So if it's 320 and I do a 75% cash out refinance, what's 25% of 320? That is $80,000, right? So wait, 25% that's minus 80,000, so it's actually 240. So that's a perfect burr, right? so like I bought it right to the point where between me paying cash and getting 20% discount, and between the property appraising 5% over the purchase price, the original purchase price, and I have sales comps to support it, right? It's valued at 320. I'm all in for 240, and I'm doing a 75% cash out refinance, and assuming the debt service coverage ratio is met by the lender. So the debt service coverage ratio, remember, is your total your mortgage plus your property tax plus your insurance plus your HOA. And if your DSCSR is 1, that means your rent must equal that. So if your all-in cost minus property management is, let's say, $1,000 a month, this is mortgage, property tax, insurance, HOA is $1,000 a month, and the debt service coverage ratio requirement is 1, that means your rent must be $1,000, right? If the DSCR is 1.25, your rent must be $1,250. So assuming I can hit that debt service coverage ratio, and keep in mind, my loan terms are going to be around 7%, let's just call it 6.8 to 7.5%, right? Depending on the seasoning, the lender, and whatnot. And that's actually better than Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac right now, right? I actually asked the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac lender and said, hey, can you beat this? And they said, no, we can't. And this was a private money debt service coverage ratio lender. So I could literally pull my money out, assuming the debt service coverage ratio is met, and then basically pull out my money and have zero money in my deal, and I own an asset where I might make $150 a month in cash flow, but call it break even, because we all know you have to set aside for vacancies, you have to set aside for maintenance. I mean, it's a new build, so not much maintenance. You have to set aside for tenant turnover, and things break, right? So call it a break even deal. I have additional $1,500 a month for capital reserves, right? But I made $80,000 in instant equity day one. And what happens is when interest rates lower, you just refinance it. Hopefully rents go up over time, but you're getting principal pay down, right? So hopefully rents go up over time. And I have $0 in this deal and own a property that cash flows $150 a month. And I can use that same money to go buy another house cash at a 20% discount and do the new construction burr over and over again. So this is an easier burr because I'm just buying it. I don't have to rehab it, which takes 6 months, and you deal with headache with general contractors. You're just gonna rent it out, and then you're gonna refinance it, right? And then and then you repeat. So it's like remove 1 R, which is the biggest R. So the only downside is that I have to, if you want to wait 3 months for a seasoning, you can wait 6 months for a seasoning. Just park your cash there for 3 months, for 6 months. Not a terrible idea. But if you want the money immediately, you could pull your money with zero seasoning, but you have to pay a higher interest rate. So you have to look at your pros and cons. Okay, let's just say with zero seasoning or less than 3 months of seasoning, interest rate is 7%, or 7.5%. And then with 3 months seasoning, the interest rate's 7.3%. With 6 months seasoning, the interest rate's 7%. Like for a $200,000 or $250,000 loan, 0.5% is not gonna make much of a difference. It might be the difference of like $60. That's nothing. But if I can pull my capital faster and go buy another property, cash, again, using the same money, and get $80,000 into equity, that's how you build wealth, right? That's how you build wealth fast. It's the velocity of money, right? Without any rehab. Like, where else could I buy a deal with 25% instant equity between 20% discount, 5% appraised over purchase original price, engage a lender, immediately cash out refinance of low docs, so they're not looking at all my statements, right? Because they're just looking at the income of the property. And then basically you pull it out, and then you go buy another one, and then rinse and repeat, use the same process, right? I'm gonna buy from Lennar. My property manager tell me what the rents are, they'll rent it out. And I'll engage the same lender. If it's Convoy Home Loans, just use them again, and they know me, right? And just rinse and repeat this process. Like, I'll do this all day. But let's just say that's not a perfect burr. And let's just say I end up leaving, like, I think I'm gonna leave about $20,000 in the deal. But you bought for, $260, so that's about 8% down payment for a new construction property. That's going to cash flow. Not bad either, right? Not bad either. And if interest rates drop in the future, you can refinance the rest of your 8%. So you're just leaving the 8% there until interest rates drop again, and then you can pull out the rest of your money and call it a day, right? So you have to think long term. So just wanted to share my journey as to like what my down payment is in my building phase. Obviously I'm at that point now where I can put larger down payments if it makes sense. Like, we don't have to pull all our cash, but, obviously I want to buy more of these deals, so I am. But, eventually I'm going to, like, plan it out. So, like, the cash flow, and then, since I built up so much equity in these properties day one, eventually I can sell them and use it to pay off each other. So, if I make $80,000 of equity on average for each property that I own, and my average purchase price is $250,000, I can have 4 of them, sell 3, and then pay off 1. And now I own 1 free and clear. And then you rinse and repeat that process over again. And you're not even using your own money, right? So that's the beauty of it. So anyways, just want to create a video talking about my average down payment throughout my real estate investing journey. And remember, every time you buy a new property, they're looking at the rental income you're generating to help your debt to income ratio. And also, if you're not going Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, which I'm going towards, they just look at the income of the property. They look at your credit score. Like, as long as you're above like 700, you're good. As long as the income of the property covers the cost of the loan, you're good. So, anyways, if you want one-on-one coaching, you want mentorship, you want to reach out to me via email, click on my link tree down below. And also I'm interested in restarting my school community for like maybe $20-$30 a month. If you're interested, let me know, because I'm trying to gauge interest before I commit. Otherwise, let me know what questions you have, what comments you have. Please like, comment, subscribe, and hope to see you next one. Thank you so much.